Oh, yeah, yeah. Have we been emailing?
Yes.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming. Very, very cool. Everybody else, I think I have. Are we live? And on location? Oh my gosh, welcome. Okay, we're live on the internet, people. So calm down. Welcome, internet peoples, to the Cup of Code and Bucknell SBDC Business Bytes and Brews. This is a really fun, organic, entrepreneurial event where once a month, last Wednesday of the month, we get together and we talk about all things marketing, all things of interest on the interwebs, and how you can get your business, nonprofit, your startup, your idea to a place where more people will want to pay attention to it. We have great presenters every month, and hopefully they bring something new and flavorful to what it is that you need to consider when you're launching your business or your nonprofit. And so we're really excited to get into today's presentation. First, I want to kind of hand the microphone over, as we do every month, to Stephen Stumbers from the Bucknell SBDC. Say a few words, if you would.
Hey, thank you so much, Norm. Welcome. It's great, the energy that's already in the room from a half an hour before our official programming starts. So thank you for turning out to learn something new about marketing, sometimes about technology. Sometimes about just sharing the experience of being an entrepreneur in the region. All of those are things to keep coming back to Business Bytes and Brews for. And of course, I'll invite you to connect in many, many other ways with the team of Bucknell University's Small Business Development Center. We are amply represented here today with, I'm very happy to share, yet another new team member who has very recently joined us. So yay, yes indeed. Many of you have already connected with Amber Guerrero in helping you grow your business. Many of you have already had a chance to meet for the first time in the context of the SBDC last month, Alicia Mack. I am delighted to have just recently welcomed Claire Beaver to the team of the Bucknell SBDC. So all of us are resources for entrepreneurs looking to start up a business and for small businesses throughout much of central Pennsylvania. Tamalea, I was just talking with you about the earliest stage of starting a business. And I invited you and anyone else who is at that very earliest stage, taking the first step to starting your own business. We have a program coming up in downtown Sunbury, couple Wednesdays, one Wednesday, March 4th, 5 o'clock in downtown Sunbury. I'm going to make sure that you are signed up for that. And if anyone else, and indeed any entrepreneurs that you know from the region, are at that very first step of starting, of planning, of getting ready to launch your own business, that is an ideal place to be. You will connect with the SBDC. You will get to know us a lot more through that workshop, but then the opportunity to connect with us, sit down with members of the SBDC team as we strategize with you, as we advise you and help you be successful in starting a business, be successful in growing your business. That's plenty about the SBDC. We have lots more to learn today, and after our presentation, lots more opportunity to continue the great conversations you were having. So back to you, Norman. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. Okay, a quick shout before we get to our presenter. We want to let everybody know that this fun event, is sponsored by some really awesome businesses in the area, not only the Bucknell SBDC and Cup of Code, but our friends at Ivy Coffee, our friends at W&S Distributors, and how many other friends do we have, Tim? Let's go over here. Ivy Coffee. Oh, and Tamkus Art and Design.
The answer to that would be
You've got
zero.
one hand, you can do that. But Tamkus Art and Design helps us out quite a bit. So without further ado, I want to introduce my partner in crime, Tim Keeley. Today, he's going to be talking about AEO, GEO, SEO, and bingo, was his name-o? And I know, that's the only thing I wanted to say. I'll hand it over to Tim, who's going to be talking about how to get yourself found in answer engine, in generative engine, and in search engine optimization. And Timmy, take it away.
Thanks, Norm.
Welcome.
Everybody. Before we start, I just want to let everyone know that if you want to follow along with this outside of the screen, if you visit cupocode.com/triple-brew, you can actually follow the presentation. Or if you go to the Business Bytes and Brews event, you can follow along and you'll be able to pull this exact same presentation up on your computer if you want to follow along that way. And as we go through, some of this stuff might be a little bit high level, but everything that I'm going to talk to you guys about today is something that you can start doing on your own with your own website, with your own web presence. So feel free to stop me, ask questions anytime you want. But everything that I'm going to show you is super achievable and something that you guys can all do on your own. So are we ready to begin? All right. So I'm calling this Beyond the Drip, a masterclass in triple shot visibility, because we're all familiar with SEO, the way that you get found on the internet, your search engine optimization. But recently, you probably heard the buzzwords AEO and GEO popping up. And when you combine all three of those together, you kind of have the powerhouse team of getting found on the web. So we will be brewing the perfect blend of search, answer, and intelligence to move your web presence from a link in the list to the primary source of authority, meaning that we're going to get you beyond just being listed on Google, and we're going to get you found in other places. So a couple of things we want to go over first is the glossary, a couple of things that you're going to see in this presentation, just so you can have a little bit of awareness of what they mean. Things like NLP, natural processing language. So this isn't to be confused with any psychology people out there that are familiar with neuro-linguistic programming. This is AI specific, talking about basically how things like ChatGPT and Gemini are able to communicate with you with things like chatbots with AI. An entity is your verified business identity, and this is basically the you of this program. So when you see the word entity used, it's referring to you as your business. When you see the acronym RAG, it is basically just how AI just retrieves this information. It's retrieval augmented generation, and you'll see that a couple of times through this presentation. And then your CID is your customer ID, which is the way that machines read your Google ID. And this is something that you can find through your URL of like a Google Maps link. So when you see those acronyms throughout the presentation, I just want to give you a heads up of what they all mean. So now for the technical pulse, a couple more acronyms for you guys to learn, and some of you might have heard of some of these. An LCP, it refers a lot to how fast your website loads. When you launch your website, if you have that half-a-second delay or that 1.5-second delay, if you look under the hood, it's going to be referred to as the largest contentful paint. It's just your visual loading speed, how long it takes for an actual person to see what your website has to show. An LLMS.txt stands for large language model .text, and it's a text file that lives in the root directory of your website. And this is the blueprint file that gives AI the direction it needs to understand what they're reading when they scan through your website. So this isn't something that the human sees. This is something that lives on your website specifically for AI bots like Gemini and ChatGPT. Schema is a type of markup that is also read by machines. It's not something that humans see. And this is going to be like the nutritional fact label on food. Is basically going to give something like a search engine a better idea of what you are, what your business is about, and where you're located. And we'll get into quite a bit of schema stuff throughout this process. And then the last thing we're going to look over is called a triple, and it is a subject, predicate, and object logic. And we have an example and a tool within this presentation that will kind of give you a little bit of a visual idea of how chat and stuff like that actually looks at what your business is, what you do, and what you're about. Any questions about these terms? Because this was a lot of information already. Yeah.
It's not about the terms, but I'm wondering for some of the older eyes in the room if it might be possible to increase this. Can you zoom in just a little? Could you go to like one? Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you.
Better?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you said beyond GSP. What is GSP?
Beyond SEO. Are you talking about the beginning?
Yes.
So a lot of people are familiar with SEO, meaning how you get found on search. We have AEO, which is your answer. The next slide will show you it's where voice assistants and snippets come from. So that is another layer beyond SEO. It's outside of searches. It's a whole different platform for your business to be found. And then GEO is generative, and that's things like chatbots. Like when you talk to ChatGPT and Gemini, there's a way that you can build your website and implement different things to get yourself cited in those areas as well. So this is the Search Trinity protocol. It basically just shows you the different layers of how you can be found online, from SEO meaning a desktop or a mobile web browser. AEO, which is where you have your voice assistants, like, I'm not going to say it out loud because people's phones will go off, but like S and G. And this is also like in your car. Like if you're a restaurant, you imagine yourself driving, talking in the dash, trying to find a pizza place near me. AEO is going to help with that stuff too. And then your generative, your GEO, are your chatbots when you talk to Gemini or ChatGPT or OpenAI. Any questions about any of these terms?
I recently created a Google business page.
Mhm.
I've had 200 calls from Google,
Mhm.
and I can't seem to stop them. I don't even want to answer and say hello because I'm worried they're going to capture my voice and fraud me somehow. So I just try to inject do not call, but they just won't stop calling.
Mhm.
I opt out, or is that going to harm me from someone driving down the road and say,
No, that's
"Watch my roof"?
no, that's just all spam.
So how do I stop them? What's going to affect my page at
If
all?
it won't affect your page, and a lot of there's also an attack that we actually saw recently where somebody will leave bad reviews on your Google profile, and then they'll instantly reach out and say, "Hey, we noticed that you have these. If you give us access, we can fix this for you." And don't do that. So there's a whole plethora of reasons that Google will contact you, but if they pick up the phone and try to call you and just no resolution, then it's probably spam. If there's something going on with your profile, you'll get an email or you'll see like a flag on your profile that shows you that there's something going on. Otherwise, if that's not the case, then it's probably either a Google rep that's just trying to get access to your account to tell you, hey, if you connect to Google Ads, you can spend more money with us, or it's spam. So unfortunately, the more web...
It says spam every time.
Yep.
Usually.
Yep.
A few times.
And sometimes they get creative and you actually get a localized phone number when it comes through.
Exactly.
Yeah. One time years ago, I actually had my own phone number call me for a spam call. It was interesting. I would have picked up, but I wasn't really interested in talking to myself.
You do that enough.
Yep. Yeah. So, but I wish I had an answer for you. But unfortunately, the bigger your web presence, also you start hitting all these directories where you are now a target for people that have your information to reach out to you for solicitation reasons.
So I don't never use, but I use a Google Voice number, so I can always tell when the call is Google
Yeah.
Voice rather than to my personal cell.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're using like a business line, like, or third-party apps like that, there's a little bit extra filtering. But once you start getting a web presence, like once you buy domains, once you do all this stuff, now you are just getting hit with people that want to offer you all their services.
That's why I'm a cup of coffee.
Yep. So you can find the right way to get the services done. Any other questions about any of the glossary items that we're going to see throughout this presentation? All right. So what happens when you tie this trinity together? So the SEO layer, this is how you want to rank for number one for something like best web developer in Pennsylvania. So everybody has seen Google searches. They always want to hit that top spot. They want to hit that first page. They want to get themselves seen either in the map section or in the search section. That's all your SEO layer. So when you talk about your AEO layer, this is providing a clear answer for something like how long does a website take to build? Because this is how you typically communicate with something like a voice chat. Like if you talk to your G or your S at home and you say something like how long or how do I write a business plan? Or what's the fastest way to do this? Or give me a vacation itinerary for these dates. A lot of that's your AEO layer. And now that you're not typing into a search bar, you need to make sure that you're getting that information out in front of the right places. And the AEO layer is part of that process because now you're talking to those language models versus the Google search engines. So then when we have the GEO layer, this is when you get cited. So if you have used Gemini or ChatGPT and you get a response and it gives you the links of where they're getting the information from, little link icon, you can actually get linked into that because of the content that your website provides. So if you explain to yourself in the proper way, like why you're the best choice for websites in Pennsylvania, and Chat or Gemini picks up on that, it's going to tell you information from your website with the link that people can see you being cited. It's like the modern day version of getting cited in somebody else's article. Any questions about the different layers?
So you're saying you're typing in keywords in there to get someone to say to themselves, why use us and select you?
For the AEO and the GEO layer, it's not something that you're actually reading off of your website. This is stuff that's embedded machine level. Yep. So you have...
You're putting into words to make that
Yep.
connection happen to the customer.
Yep, that's part of that schema that was in the glossary. The schema is a machine readable file that has data in a way that machines know how to read it, and you structure that in a way that you can pick up on those responses. And we'll get more into that schema here in a bit. So one of the best things you can do for SEO, and this is something that you can actually start doing today on your own website, is you want to use the book analogy to make sure that you have your markup, meaning the structure of your website in a good place. So the way that a website should be structured is having an H1, a heading 1, a heading 2, and heading 3s in the right order. So when you look at somebody's website and you see that big text at the top, and then you see bold, slightly bigger or slightly smaller text throughout the page, those aren't just aesthetic choices, those are actual structural choices. And if you think about it like a book, your H1, your heading title, is the core subject. It's basically the title of the book. And then when you have your H2s, your chapters, these are parts of the website that AI can use for bulleted summaries, things like subjects. And then you have your H3s, and these are more for like specific facts or supporting fact chunks. So when you look at your markup, like a book, you want to make sure that every book only has one title, one H1 title, meaning your website page, like an about page, has one H1. A services page has one H1. So you don't want to use multiple just to get that big bold text. You want to actually structure it so that every page is titled properly. And then you want to make sure you use the different headings for the different chapters. An example? I can show you an example. So if you go back to the beginning of this website and I open up my dev tools here, and I hover over beyond the drip, I don't know how well anybody can see this, but when I hover this, you see how that says H1 right there? So that beyond the drip is telling this web page, if this was something that was like a customer's website, that's saying that this is the name of the business. This is the title of the book. This is what you're going to get. And then a masterclass in triple shot visibility is a pretty strong subject for people that are trying to search for things like, I'm looking for web visibility. I'm looking for a masterclass in web development. And that's where we have this H2. So that we have the title of the book as an H1, and then we have a chapter as an H2. And then if we had like a list, like say that we have a list of service areas. We serve Northumberland, Snyder, Union counties. If we have all those in H3s, now that's telling things like SEO, search engines, this is important information. This is subject to facts that you want to understand. Versus something like this that you see it just has the letter P standing for a paragraph tag. That just means that it's supporting body text, and that's where you pack in your keywords and all that information. Yes?
So I often see websites where we're aesthetically building things and we have titles that are like, meet us, or what about this? If it doesn't include meaningful information, does it still work? Like, how do businesses think about the types of H1, H2, and H3 tags that they're actually putting in there?
That's a really good question, because you want to find that balance between making it human readable, but also giving as much information as possible. Using my company, for example, I could have an H1 on our homepage that says Cup of Code Marketing and Websites. We do the best marketing and websites in Central Pennsylvania. Reach out to us for billboards and more. And that to a human would be just overwhelming. Then we could have something as simple as Cup of Code Websites, which is super more pleasing to a human, but a machine's not going to pick up on that and have any idea that we do other services. So you want to kind of find that balance where you are titling your book in a way that humans will understand what they're getting into, but also in a way where machines are going to look at it and say, okay, I can reference this H1 title with what this business does. So it's kind of a balancing act.
How do you figure that out?
Yeah. How do you figure that out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, a lot of it has to do with knowing your industry, knowing your business. And when we get websites, what we'll do is a little bit of market research. Like for you, for example, I'd look at other businesses that are similar to you in the area, and I would try to find out what people are going to find you when they search. Like if I was looking for your services, me as a human, pulling myself out of the industry and into the human that doesn't know the industry, or else I would just do it myself. I want to pull myself into a role where I don't know enough about it to do myself, so I'm going to search with it with the generic words that I would expect to find my information with. So you want to get yourself to that level, and then you want to name your H1s like Central PA's Premier Roof Washing, and that would be your H1. And then an H2 would be something like Roof Washing Services throughout Central Pennsylvania.
The problem for this is there's a curve that no one thinks about a roof wash, think about a house wash or house power washing.
Yeah.
So how do you learn that into the computer, but also the mind of people trying to solve this problem they have beyond replacing the roof?
A lot of it's industry knowledge. Some of it's packing your rest of your text, like all this text here could be packed with keywords to pick up on. This is where you could talk more about.
Is that the P down there?
Yep, that just stands for paragraph. Yep, that just stands for paragraph. So you could do something like a paragraph that talks about your process. And within your process, you would have some keywords that could be pulled from. You could have a list that says, at the Wizard's Magic Roof Wash, we do this. And you could have a bulleted list because a
There's
website.
different keywords for each different part, the P's,
Yeah.
the H1, the H2, they're all little.
Yep, they all have their own purpose. So an H1 is going to be like the main thing. And usually a lot of it, sometimes people use it for their business name. Like if you have your industry and your business, a lot of times the H2 would be almost like your tagline. Like if somebody said, what do you do in one sentence? Like that could be like an H2. So.
Also, do you recommend, there are a lot of free SEO grading and ranking tools out there that, I mean, they can't make you into a great copywriter, but they can at least tell you what's wrong.
Yeah.
You're missing an H2.
Yep. And that's a great thing. And to be honest, if you go into Google and let me back this up a bit. If you go into Google and you on a Mac, it's Option Command I. On a Windows, it's a different thing. But if you get into this window up here, you can actually click on Lighthouse and you can run a report right through the Google browser that'll tell you things like, do you have any accessibility problems? Do you have any speed indexing problems? Do you have any best practices problems? And Lighthouse is a really good indicator to let you know, like, hey, I got some problems. Maybe I can fix some myself. Like if you built a website on WordPress or Wix or Squarespace, and it says that you have 3 H1s, that's something anybody in here that put the website together in the first place can go and just say, okay, here's my other 2 H1s. Let's switch these to something else. And now you have that corrected. So Google has a free Lighthouse built in, and then you also have paid options like some of the services. And also the SBDC, we actually had a website audit a couple of years ago, which was a really great format because they gave us a super detailed report back as far as things that we could fix to get a better web presence. So there's definitely options between free Lighthouse, other services, and the SBDC if you want to do an audit on your own website. Any other questions? Is that still big enough to read? Perfect. Any questions about the heading structures? So this is something that you guys can all just do today. If you go on your own website and pick maybe your 2 or 3 most prominent pages and go through it in the builder or however you have it built and just make sure that you only have 1 H1 per page. Make sure that your H2s are kind of like the chapters of your business and the H3s are kind of like the fact chunks.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
Since Google's always grabbing data and pulling data from the internet and search, is it possible that someone's got a website in here that's existed for years and maybe it was built by a novice builder and it doesn't have any H1s, H2s, H3s, any type of structural support? And if so, what's that tell Google?
Doesn't really tell them anything. I mean, at that point, you're kind of just grabbing randomly at those keywords. Now, there are services like you can have plugins and stuff that kind of just put in keywords under the hood that you don't know anything about. Like if you use like Wix with their SEO tool, it might automatically plug some of that stuff in for you, but it's kind of let up the chance to see if that's actually happening. Whereas if you structure your own website with something like this, you know that you at least have the title, the chapters, and the fact chunks in the right place.
Thanks.
So this is the schema that we've been talking about. These are the nutritional facts, and this is how a machine's going to look at your website. And I made it green on black, so it looks like I'm this cool hacker up here. But it's really not that hard to take this, highlight it, copy it into a text file, and ask a developer or Google how to embed schema in your own homepage or wherever you want to put it. And essentially what it does is it's just you have a preset type. For Cup of Code, we are a marketing agency. We tie our name to it. We have attributes like same as, and this is just telling Google that if you see linkedin.com/company/cup of code, that is the same as this cup of code that is managing this website. If you see this Google Maps location ID, which your ID would be in here, is telling just search engines and it's telling them this is the same business as this. So it's kind of like when you have a DBA as a business, it's a digital version of that. So you're kind of just letting everybody know that all these entities, they're all the same person. And there's a lot more that you can add to this, but if you don't have any schema markup, this alone is one quick thing that you can do today that allows you to tie yourself to a Google Maps profile. It allows you to tie yourself to a Facebook, and Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever else you have. And it's going to give you a little bit stronger web presence to know that you on the web are now all these entities into this one endpoint. Any questions on schema markup? Yes.
Well, it's more about the physical location piece. Because if you run your business out of your own home, but you don't actually want people to know where that is,
Mhm.
Does that affect your recommendation to do that?
You would still do this. You would just use different things. Like you could actually put in like counties that you serve, like a service area rather than like a physical address, like a Google ID. So there's options based on home businesses or remote businesses that you can put in towns, counties, and you can just embed your service area that way. Any questions about this? About the
My business is also run at my house. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't still having an address listed on your Google, doesn't that rank you higher than if you were to just put down the counties? Because at one point, that's what I had, it's just counties and things like that. When I put my address down, this is about the time I started getting active with you guys too.
Yeah.
Which, pin it on what actually made it happen.
Mhm.
But I noticed almost an immediate pickup.
So adding your address does give a benefit because now you also put yourself into that map. So when you open up a Google search for a location, you see the map with the pins and the different businesses down the side. If you don't have a location set with your Google business profile, then you're not going to be found there and you're going to be relying on search. So adding a business address, unless it's a PO box, because PO boxes Google does not work with. But if you can add a business address, even in Google, it's called, you'll hear the acronym NAP, name, address, and phone. You want to make sure that your name, address, and phone is identical any place you put it on the web. So, for example, if your address is 123 9th Street and you write the number 9 TH on Facebook, but you write the number 9 with no TH on Instagram, Google's going to think that you're two different businesses. So you want to make sure that it's identical across the board. And to wrap back up on your answer, that is how Google will see your address to rank you higher because now it sees a consistent address, a consistent phone, and a consistent name across the web. So you can do the schema for just service areas, but when it comes to the actual Google and all the organic searching, then having a name, having an address, having a phone number will help.
I just bit the bullet and did it. People know where I live. Hopefully I didn't make too many enemies.
Yeah.
That's what I got too. I'm like, you know what? I live on Main Road. All my trucks are lettered. People are gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
So I just put crap with the cameras up,
Mhm.
and I haven't had issues. When you put your address on, you should get pick up what leads. I saw traffic increase. I can actually see on the Google. You can see how many people have like punched in directions to the address. I have very few people show up. Like out of 100 to 200 times a month, I probably see one, maybe 2 clients a month that actually show up on hours to check.
Yeah.
Which those are a little comfortable when that happens. But overall, I mean, it's amazing the amount of people who are looking up your address. I assume it's to see how close you are to them. If you're local.
Yeah. It also picks up on the proximity. When you have people that search the some service near me. Yep.
It also made verifying my Google page a lot easier.
Yes.
I fought with it for like 2 years to get verified. Put my address on, Google went right through.
That is the bane of Nick's existence, is Google profile pages.
What'd you say?
Nick has so much struggle with Google business profiles because he's the one that whenever somebody has an issue, he's the one that always jumps on to fix it. So when people get kicked out of verification or when somebody gets rejected.
Google Business Profile will never call you because you can't call them. There's nobody that exists out there that works under there.
However,
So-
not to blow my own horn, but I am a certified Grow with Google partner, and between us and Google, there's a nice gentleman named Daniel, and I have an email address for him, and sometimes he can help us.
I
There are-
told Google Ads to get help.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way I could get a hold of Google.
I believe
And
it.
they still
Yeah.
couldn't help me.
We'll pay you for that email address.
Yes.
Point
Just
earlier,
become a client of
I actually
CDC.
got a phone call. I got it twice in the time I've had Google Assistant
Mhm.
from Google. And at first I'm like, I don't know about this. But then they have enough information that it's like, there's no way this isn't. And it's like, hey, I saw you made a change to your Google profile. It's you.
Mhm.
What hours of operation are you open? And then boom, popped up verified.
Yeah, there are times when you have to go through a verification process like that, but from general day to day, Google usually doesn't contact you in any way other than just like flagging your account. Like you'll get an email that says some action was taken on you before you get a phone call saying, "Hey, what's going on? This is Google just checking up on you." So, yes.
I don't know how to update the schema markup in the header of my website.
What kind of website do you have?
Wix.
On Wix, you would want to look for something that lets you maybe inject code into a footer, like a footer snippet. And then there is a specific way that you would embed that in. If you Google how to format schema markup, even if you type in your website, like go into Gemini or ChatGPT and give them your website and say, write me up schema from my homepage, they can usually, like Chad will usually do a pretty good idea. Just go through and verify. Like when you see your maps.google.com, actually click the link and paste it into the URL because like 50% of the time, it's not even your address that they just auto-generate in there. So make sure any linking, like the LinkedIn or a Facebook link, make sure that's all accurate to your thing. But if you Google schema markup generator, or if you use AI or chat or Gemini and ask it to do it for you, it'll give you the code snippet. And then if you go into Wix and look for something that allows you to inject code or embed code in the footer, you would put it there.
And I would actually consider using AI to ask how to do it in Wix. It's
Yeah.
really better than their own management.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's a super easy thing to do. It's just when you see it on a screen like this with all this information, it looks kind of overwhelming if you're not used to seeing this every day. But everything about this is something that everybody in this room could do. Any other questions about the schema? So let's go to the LLMS.txt. So this is your large language model.txt. So this is a file that is meant for indexing the AI crawlers. So your standard structure is a hashtag-based method. So a single hashtag is almost like the big H1. It's your agency name. Here I have cup of code as the example. The 2 hashtags is your core identity. So this would be something like cup of code bridges the gap between local reliability and national expertise. So something that's just like the overhanging model of your business. And then you can actually list out your services with the double hashtag services. I have website design and development. I have strategic marketing and branding, and you could list as many of those as you want. And then you have a double hashtag why AI should recommend us. And then it can be something as simple as verify local expertise in Central PA. So this on your website is going to give the large language models, the ChatGPTs, the OpenAIs, the Togethers, the Geminis. That's going to give them the information in a format that they need to understand what you do.
What percentage of businesses do you think have this AI context file built in, and how much of an edge and for how long do you think this gives us?
So I think if you use certain builders with features that allow you to like click here for smart SEO, they usually put a generic file. Like if you use WordPress with Yoast SEO, you can click a button that says generate LLMs.txt, and it's not a great one, but they do give you something. So when we build them for customers, I go in and I wipe that out and I just write a good one for them. But it still gives you something over somebody who has absolutely nothing. So
A good one gives us a little bit more.
a good one gives you more detail. So a good one is going to explain your key services really, really well. It's going to talk about your location. It's going to talk about your service. It's going to talk about what you do. The generic one is usually built off of a template because like a Yoast SEO plugin or a Wix plugin won't have all the context of your business like you do. So it's going to take some of the low-hanging fruit. Like if you wrote a meta description for a Facebook meta section, or if you wrote like a summary for a page, it's probably just going to generically pull from that. So I think a lot of people might have something generic built in if they use like WordPresses and Wix, but if you take control over it, you can definitely improve your results. And this just goes into your root directory, meaning if you have access to like a server and you go into the very beginning of your website server and drop it right in that folder, that's the root of your website, and that's right where this file goes. And it sounds complicated, but a Google search that says like I'm on WordPress.org, where do I find my root directory? And it'll take you right to it. Yeah.
So I get phone calls. The most common scam call is the voice activation center.
Yep.
So doing something like this, like, hey, your business is showing up on the leading voice activation, Siri app or whatever. A stop behind that, or
So I personally love when customers are like, hey, I got this call from this company that says I'm not showing up on Google. And I'm like, how did they find you? And then they're like, So like, if they're calling you, they're getting your information from somewhere. There's a million different ways you can put your information online. Some of these companies rely on backlinking. They have just farms of people that have access to different things that they can put your website in and get you backlinks. And some of them are legit, some aren't. But anytime somebody offers you like a quick and easy solution like that, I'd always be skeptical of why. And then I'd be like, I wonder how they got my information, because they found you because you showed up for something they were looking for. So that's just my take on when people call you for that kind of thing. I'm like, they found my business. That's kind of cool. So something that everybody can do today is, if you're on like WordPress or other services, you can look into your own platform and you can see what it would take for you to generate and upload your own llms.txt file, and you can start getting a little bit of leverage in the AI citing world. Any questions? So the next thing is the 50-word source of truth. So every page, you want to start out with a declarative paragraph, and you don't want to like fluff it up, not too sales pitchy. This is one of those things where you want to find the balance between human readability and what machines and parsers are looking for. So I have an example that is about like 55 words probably, that would just talk about cup of code, which I'm going to highlight for future use. So something that you can do today is pick your 3 most popular pages, your home page, your about page, and your services page. And you can look at your declarative paragraph, your first paragraph, and you can hone in on how that paragraph should look for your 50-word source of truth. So the next thing we're going to talk about is ingestion and speed. So phase 1 is your largest contentful paint is going to be the speed of your website. And AI does prioritize fast sites, just like for years, SEO has prioritized fast sites. So speed is definitely a signal whether or not your website is going to be priority for being indexed or priority for being cited or not. So that's one of those things that you can go on and you can optimize images. You can remove plugins you're not using. There's a bunch of different ways, depending on your platform, that you can work on the speed of your page. Some builders, WordPress, Wix, they might have a feature called lazy load. So what lazy load does is it won't load images and video on your page until you get to that section of your web page. That way you alleviate having to load an entire web page on load before the user even gets to see it. So you'll load the hero section, and as the user scrolls, you'll see images fade in as they're scrolling, and that helps your page speed because you load it one piece at a time, you don't load the whole thing. So that's something that everyone here that has a website could do today, is just look for a feature called lazy load or optimize images and try to get those image sizes down and try to get that website loading a little bit faster. So the H1 hierarchy. So we talked before how this is the main heading of the web page, and it tells users and search engines the main topic. And if you have multiple titles, it's going to dilute your authority, meaning it's not really going to know what your actual topic and what your purpose is. And then that 50-word rule. So you want to create a summary chunk that AI can pull directly from for citations. And that is phase 1. That's going to help your ingestion and speed. Any questions on any of those? Phase 2 is the entity verification. And this is where you would take phase 2 and you would update your LLMS.txt. You would work on your schema with your customer ID from Google and the NAP alignment that we talked about before, the name, address, and phone number. So you want to make sure that this matches across the entire web. Every single place you have your name, your address, and your phone number has to be identical. Yes?
I went through a process of a location address change with an organization that I work with, and every now and again, something else crops up where we're like, oh, there's the address again. Do you have any resources for how a business can find as many of those as possible? There's the obvious ones, but then there's the not so obvious ones.
I do. I have something for you a little bit later in this program. It's a fun Google search too that you can use against your competitors as well, but it'll work for that. So phase 3 will be the answer machine, and this is just your schema. And one thing that you can also do in your schema is you can set up FAQs. You can have a schema markup that has FAQs in a way where you word them in a way that humans would talk to AI or go into search. And then when those are hit, you would have the responses, like a human readable FAQ section, but for machines. So your H3 logic and your paragraphs would be that 50-word answers. So you want to create those fact chunks. And your proof of work is you want to make sure you're using original content, and you don't want your stuff to be flagged for AI, because if you're getting flagged for AI, you're not going to have the domain authority. You're not going to have the kind of web presence. There's actually systems out there that they use AI to look for AI. Yes.
So how does that work then? My own original thought. I had a conversation about this, the work that I do, but then I'm putting that into AI to help me turn it into written content. Where's the line?
It's less about the written content and more about the imagery.
Okay.
So if you're a landscaper and you do an AI image of a yard, like that is going to, if that doesn't look like your region, your backyard, your neighborhood, that's going to be picked up on, and it's going to be picked up on as AI. So, because sometimes there's a lot of things in AI that we don't even notice as the people posting them. I'm not going to mention any names, but we are starting a new customer for social media marketing in March. And I started setting his meta ads up today, and I was looking through his page to find really cool content because he has some really cool images that were made by AI, but they have like 3 arms, and he didn't notice and posted them anyway. So I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. So
Do stock photos work in the same way as AI generated photos?
typically not. Stock photos and AI photos, there's something about the way that the, what's it called? I forget what the name of it off the top of my head, but there's data embedded in images that tell you a lot about the image without seeing anything. Because I wrote a program one time that you could go in and you could change that, because I thought it was fun at one point to put secret messages in photos. Side note, you can drop off the last bit of binary data, every line of an image, and then you can replace it with a bit of your own. And the human eye doesn't see that color difference, but you can run it through a parser and you can pull that message out. So there's a whole bunch of data in images, and there's something about the data in an image for AI that I imagine is based off of where it was generated from or where it originates from, versus if you have something that comes off of a camera and it shows like a location. Because if you take a picture on your cell phone, or you take a picture on anything and upload it to, a server, it's going to have a location timestamp. Whereas if you get something from AI, it's going to have a OpenAI or a Gemini timestamp, and it's going to be an indicator that that's AI generated content. Yeah.
The controversy of the data centers and everything around where we're working, I avoid as much AI publicly as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll openly admit that one thing I do is I'll take AI for reference, and then I'll make I'll make an actual copy like in Photoshop or Procreate or something, but I'm using it as a reference point, not as the final output, because I never know what that data is like. So there's a lot of data under the hood of even images that humans never see. EXIF, E-X-I-F, it's EXIF data. That's the word. Yep. So on an iPhone, maybe an Android, I don't know, but on an iPhone, if you ever like swipe the wrong way and you start seeing all that information, like the resolution, the photo size, all that stuff, that's all EXIF data, and that goes a lot deeper than what your iPhone shows you. So there's a lot of data in images that are likely the reason why it can be picked up through filters for AI generated content. Any questions before I move on to the next slide?
Slide on, slider.
Slide on. So this is just a 6-month roadmap recap. So if you want to take it upon yourself to try to improve your web presence, if you give yourself a 6-month timeline, these are super achievable goals that you can set for yourself. And it starts with phase 1. You can work on your speed, your hierarchy, and your summary chunks, meaning optimizing images and making sure that you are utilizing lazy load. And your H1s, your H2s, your H3s, that would all be under phase 1. And you want to do this throughout your entire site. Phase 2 would be your connectivity, meaning your large language model text and your schema markup is all connected and operating and identifying your business from a machine language standpoint. And then phase 3 would be your authority, meaning your FAQ library and being the answer and making sure that your name, address, and phone number is accurate across the web. So this is a 6-month roadmap for a very achievable path if anybody wants to try to work through their own website, speed, SEO, and AEO technologies.
Any tips on writing the FAQ section to better tailor a AI response?
You want to write them in a way that puts you in the position of the professional. So rather than saying, do you mow grass in Selinsgrove? You would word it like, the question would be, do our professional services extend to Selinsgrove and Snyder County? And then you'd answer it. So something like that. So you want to word it in the way that you want to pack in the information that a customer should be finding. That make sense? Okay. So in this presentation are a couple little tools that everybody has access to. The first one is a lead paragraph audit. So that chunk of text that I copied from earlier, if I paste it in here, it gives us the amount of words, 58 words, and it tells us perfect. Say that we chunked a bunch of this out and we cut it off like here. When we get to 39 words, it wants us to revise that. So this is a little tool that you can use if you want to not count words to work on your own page summaries. And then that triple that we talked about in the glossary, if you want to see how AI actually looks at your business, you can type in your business name, Cup O Code. You can tell it what it does. We build websites. And AI is going to see you as the subject, this cup of code, and your action is build, and the object that you build is websites. So this is kind of just like a fun visualizer to see how AI will actually break down something like a single paragraph or a single sentence about your business. And then there's also a little checkbox here that you can use if you want to start working through some of these yourself. And that is the completion of the brewing. And everybody that wants to access this slide also gets access to a series of handouts that I made. It gives you the Master Search Trinity strategy. It gives you tools like checklists. It gives you the triple builder. It gives you different prompts that you can use for your own usage. And every one of these subjects up here will go out to an entirely new page that is specifically for that topic. So you have 4 worksheets that you have available to go through everything from SEO to AEO to GEO. And that's all available at the end of this slide. Or if you fill out the email list, you'll get we can send you a link to this, and this can be a handy little tool that you can access and use. And every piece of information in here is something that is achievable for anybody without any technical ability to do. Any questions? And then there's one last thing I want to let everyone know, that if you fill out the email form, I think I saw you have the email form going around. Anybody that fills out the email form, we're going to email them our Cup of Code AI Caffeine Shot Survival Guide, which is completely based on using AI to help you with marketing and websites. You have a copy prompt for strategy. You have a copy prompt for making social on Facebook. You have SEO, you have email, you have idea refiners. You have all kinds of tools, you have all kinds of information. You have tons of information in this little outline that help you through every single thing that you can do as a marketer and how AI can help you do it quicker and better. Everything down to making gradients for your text and layouts.
I
just seen something on it, the competitor spy program, what is that?
Where did you see that? This is the thing that I'm going to show you about finding yourself online. Did we pass that already? Let's find that prompt. Oh, the competitor spy combo. So we're going to go to a browser. And we are going to, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see what I typed in there? We're going to go to competitor name in quotes, meaning it's a string that it's looking for. And then we're going to do the, it's called Google Like a Pro, if everybody ever heard that term. We're going to do site:competitor.com. So we are going to type in, let's say, Cupo code. If I could spell my own business, that'd be fantastic. So when we search Cupo code in this way, it's going to show us all the different places on the web that Cupo code is currently listed. I don't even know what a Zoom info is, but we're there. We're on Yelp. So that is a quick way that you can first audit yourself if you want to find where you're listed across the web, but also you can type in your competitors' competition, see where they're listed. That works really well for things like seeing what chambers they're part of, seeing what kind of like articles they have their name in and stuff like that. So there's a, I see you looking at it, John. You're all over this. So in that AI survival guide, there's the competitor spy combo, and that's a great way to audit yourself, but also kind of audit your competitors to see where they're being shown across the web.
So that was the name of the business in quotes.
Yep. And then -site:competitor.com.
Show of hands. Who at some time during the presentation has felt like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these things. This seems like a lot. Just be honest. No, I think it's you too, buddy. You get your hand up. Yeah, it can be overwhelming, right? It's overwhelming for everybody because it's not the same marketscape that we lived in, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, right? It's constantly evolving. And you have to be evolving as a business owner or an agency owner to know that you don't know what the next big thing is going to be, but you know that you're going to have to be prepared to adapt for it. And you know that you can't just do one or two things. AEO was not something that, and GEO was not something that we were talking about in this office, 3 or 4 years ago.
We were using it, just the models weren't there yet to be able to like actually pull in from the web.
The technology was just in its infancy, and we were experimenting with it to see what it would do. But the neat thing about like generative engine optimization, just large language models, everybody says Chat GPT. That's a form of a large language model, right? Just like there's a Chevy and a Ford. Well, there's a Gemini and there's a Claude and there's all kinds of LLMs that are out there. But they're learning about you and how you use it, right? Is anyone using a large language model on a daily basis in here? Okay. Are you learning that it's giving you it's learning more about you? The more you give it, the more it's giving back that's tailored to what you want. Have you noticed that?
Yes, and also I'm grooming it to not tell me exactly what I want to hear. You can give real answers.
It can be taught. Mm-hmm. Right.
I haven't taught it not to use an M dash.
Right.
Google has a great, they're called Google Gems. And you can set gems to kind of like really create your own personality or create your own like assistant. So I'm a Gemini fan myself.
Especially in paid versus free version. Paid.
Yeah. Yeah, there are bells and whistles that you get with the paid versions of these. So I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole, just to make a point that if you've been doing the same thing for, let's say, a year, 12 months, you have absolutely 100% missed out on something that you should be integrating into your business. And you may say to yourself, but I'm getting new customers, or I'm staying status quo and I'm where I am. But we do not live in a society, in a technological world right now where we can remain stagnant like that for months on end and just expect the same results, because what's that insanity? Do the same thing and expect different results. So you've got it's forcing us to learn, to become more, to utilize these. If Tim would have talked to me about that 3 years ago, I would have been overwhelmed and said, whoa. But we've had to force ourselves to adapt and to learn more and become more to be able to compete in the landscape. So whether you're painting, or you're washing a roof, or you're cleaning out a house, a dilapidated house, and booking a vacation, we all have competitors. We all have to learn how to stay on top of getting out there in front of people. And I think what Tim talked about today is we wanted to give you some real useful things, because we're trying to be a teaching agency. We're trying to share the knowledge. We all realize that the internet will tell you everything that Tim just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He's a super smart guy. But if you go and ask it a bunch of questions, it'll start to tell you a lot of the things. Maybe it won't give you a tool on how to best use them. But we also want you to reach out to us as a teaching agency. I don't expect that you pay us X number of dollars per month to have us help you along the pathway. I'm not trying to be sales pitchy, but ask questions to the people that are using it every single day, and get yourself to a place where you start to understand a little bit more, and use chat, use Gemini, use all of the AI tools that are out there to teach you more, because sound like a NBC, commercial, a PSA from the 80s, but the more you know, the better that you will be. Does anyone remember more you know?
But don't also use it blindly.
Right.
Always proofread what it gives you.
Oh, what did we just saw? A 3-armed man today?
Yes, we saw a 3-armed man today. We saw a couple of 3-armed men today. Posted to a Facebook page.
Yeah. We took over an account out in Pittsburgh for a company, and they were using a service that was just using chat to create some of their social content. And there's a 3-armed man. Now, a lot of plumbers would wish for a third arm, but this wasn't intentional. So
it was really cool content, though.
It was intentional.
No, it was unintentional.
It was just, they're looking for the quickest way to get something done for the customer.
But I'll tell you what, from a marketing standpoint, we're all talking about it right now.
Yeah, we are. Gosh, that
No.
3-armed man out there
Yeah.
fixing sinks in the south side of Pittsburgh.
That's real marketing.
Yep.
So Noah, back to my remark there. Of everything we discussed here,
That's weird.
if you guys build a website, I take it that's most of this in today's day and age is going pretty much standard with when you guys go and build a website, you're taking all this into account pretty automatically, obviously.
So some of it, yes,
Yeah,
but not all of
here.
it.
Yeah.
What is your so if I go to Jen at Yoder Barnes and I say, hey, I'm just starting out with this house of mine, and I need a shed because I got to put my push mower in there, and I got to put my kids' bicycles in there, and I got to put all the other things in there, and I don't have a whole lot of money, but get me going. What do you got, Jen? I need a 10 by 12. She's going to set me up with a 10 by 12. Is it going to have a 2-story? Is it going to have bells and whistles? Is it going to be the entry level? Because I've just told her that I'm starting out. She's going to get me a 10 by 12, right? But is it going to have all those features that I asked for? I've guided her to say, nope. You're going to get a 10 by 12 that's going to put bikes in it. It's going to put a hose reel or 2 in it. It's going to put a push mower in it. Now, if I go to Jen and I say, I need a 10 by 12 and I need it to do, what's the best thing you got? Well, she might have a $5,000 10 by 12 and she might have a $25,000 10 by 12. So you can't expect that in this scenario, that your entry level website is going to have all these things, because it's going to have a lot of the best practices to have a branding presence online. But if you're asking for it to do all the things that absolutely have to be done, and we're checking off every single box, then we're going to communicate that. Like, well, what's the budget like for this? What can you work with? And if you say to me, I'm at an entry level, just get me a presence. I need a form. I need something to be seen. I need to know that if I'm buying Google ads, it's going to land at a place. Then we're going to give you what you're able to afford at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, some of the things absolutely do come standard because they're not just for being found on search, but they're also accessibility, like the H1 structure. A lot of times when you're bouncing through a screen reader, like if you need a screen reader or you're using the tab for different types of accessibility things, like we want that to be in place. So that has dual benefits. But as far as some of these like expanded schemas and the extra code files and all that stuff, that's something that we can definitely implement at a certain level of website. But if somebody says, I only have enough to either build 3 pages or 1 page with all this stuff, they're probably going to get most benefit to start out of the 3 pages, and we can build that other stuff later.
Amber.
Can I make a follow-up comment to that? I think one of the things that is important for businesses to remember is that, like, none of these things are a switch. SEO is not a switch. It is not this one thing that you do that magically changes your website. It's a process, and there are so many layers of it that even to build an original website, like it would take a really long time. That's why there are marketing companies that offer SEO plans, and every month they're going in and working on some of the photos and some of the meta descriptions and some of the titles and because there's so many things that you can optimize. So if you're looking at that for your own business, I think the fact that you laid it out as a 6-month plan paints the picture that this is something that you work on continually. It's not a switch that you flip and magically your website is done and perfect. And even if it was, it won't be next year.
Yeah, because updating is a real thing. But yeah, she's completely right. And when we offer our SEO and all these services, we do them in a roadmap like that because it does take time. And even if you dump everything into Google at one time, it doesn't mean that Google is just going to automatically say, hey, look at all this stuff. So it's a parsing process. Your website gets crawled, and you want to make sure that you're doing things structurally right at the pace that you can actually afford to implement it and grow.
To make a point to what Amber just said and what Tim's been saying, everybody in here has an example of their business that must be maintained on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And I want everybody in here to think about that from a website perspective and a digital presence perspective. So that's your Google business profile. That's your Facebook and Instagram. That's your website. So, Jamie has really high-end vehicles, and they're beautiful, and she delivers people in style, and she picks them up and sends them all over the place. She doesn't just go in and hop in her key and then park it in the garage and then leave it. She washes her vehicles, and she checks the oil on her vehicles and the air pressure on her vehicles. And she has a daily, a weekly, and a monthly plan for how to make sure that her services work the best that she can. Every single one of you in here in one way, shape, or form either has something mechanical or something digital that needs to be maintained daily, weekly, monthly. So from where we live, your daily is your social media presence. What can you be doing there? On a weekly, this can be anything from extended social media presence to looking at the website content that you have. And then monthly, going over and reviewing where you are on your top of mind awareness. Am I doing enough? Am I staying consistent? Am I being frequent? And then, you can develop action plans for yourself quarterly and biannually and annually to look back. When you do something like a 6-month, like Tim has set out for you, and if you are diligent to it and stay with it, you will see results. Because the one thing, it's almost Pavlovian, right? Does everybody remember that Pavlov's dog, right? It's this thing that if you continue to do a thing and you go a pathway, you get a reward. And the reward is for posting, like John's a good example. We tell John, post as many times as you can on social media. He does. He gets interactions. He grows customers. It continues to work. If we tell people to go in and look at your website and make sure that it's updated and make sure that the schema is set up the right way and that the words are there, you get rewarded. More traffic. Google refers you. No one will do this. But if we sat and did nothing with our socials and our Google business profiles and our websites, and we sat for 6 months just to see what would happen, you would see it immediately. It would tell you. You would lose customers. You would lose contact. You would fall out of top of mind awareness. And so, in the rat race of life, just make sure that you're setting some realistic expectations for yourself of daily, weekly, monthly goals.
So I will leave everyone with a reminder that if you fill out the email sheet, you'll be getting a link to this full presentation, the 4 handout sheets, online sheets that you can use for reference, and also the AI survival guide. And also, one last thing, just for fun, if you go to cupofcode.com, and if everyone scrolls down to our Dream, Design, Develop blocks that are loading slowly because I'm going through like a whole circle of stuff. Anybody ever hear of Easter eggs on websites? If you hover over the word develop in blue and click it, you can actually pin the mustache on Norm. So let's start. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to move the mustache, see if we can get it on his face. Yep, we got it. So on that note, enjoy.
How fun is that?
Super fun.
All right, Tim, thank you. Good job, buddy. Super. Did everybody find some value? Can you raise your hands if you did? Is anyone like completely confused out of your mind and you want to go talk to Tim after this? Mike,